Have you ever been somewhere and someone has stopped to help you in a time of need? I know that I have, and I'm sure that the rest of you have as well. This is something that I believe my subject today, volunteering in our communities, affects everyone, from young children all the way to our elderly. I think that because the problem affects all of us, that families living in poverty have great needs that maybe the rest of us who take some of those things for granted, we don't even realize. I think that the rate of poverty seems to affect the children maybe the most. There's so many issues that we're having in our schools today, as well as childhood diseases. I know that our local schools have recently started doing what they're calling the backpack program. A lot of these children come to school every morning without a good, healthy breakfast, which in turn has showed statistically that our school testing standards are dropping. The scores are dropping drastically. So a lot of the schools are doing a backpack program, which in turn is that on a Friday afternoon, there has been canned foods and snacks and different supplies collected throughout the week. And on a Friday afternoon, these kids have a backpack full of these healthy snacks and healthy foods that they can take home with them for the weekend, that can also give them some healthy food to eat while they're not in the school districts. I know our local school here has also rallied some volunteers to also help with that breakfast issue. Our local schools are now doing breakfast, a healthy breakfast for all students at no charge. Even my son alone sometimes will have breakfast at home, and on a testing day he'll decide to also have breakfast with his friends at school in the morning, and that gives him that much more energy to go through his testing periods. I think that statistics are showing now that shelters as well as food banks are really having a hard time staying open and functioning the way that they were meant to. Many shelters now are limiting the days and the time that, whether it be a homeless or just someone who needs an extra place to stay for the night or just a little extra food, they're having to limit those times for these people to be there just because of the overcrowding. And also, the biggest important issue in this is that these limits are happening due to lack of volunteers as well. Food banks are now having to limit the amounts of food that that our families in need are allowed to get on a weekly or monthly basis. And there again, I think that also falls back to having a lack of supplies gathered. There again, for lack of volunteers to beat our paths down our communities to try to bring this in. There's also, statistically, I had found when I was researching this subject as well, which I guess certainly makes sense to me now, that our crime rate has definitely increased as well, whether it be in large cities or in smaller communities. The crime rate for personal items being stolen and personal property has really escalated, and we're finding that a lot of these thieves, as you may say, are actually even younger adolescents, young adults, and some of them are trying to, unfortunately, are selling and pawning off these items for some cash. And for those that are trying to care for their children and pay their rent or, put gas in their car to try to find a job, these are certainly some after effects, of course, of the poverty in our nation. There's also I think statistically, the young age of this crime rate that is starting is very scary to me. I have 2 teenagers, and I also have a child who is just 11, and it's scary to me to see how early these children are starting this, just for the simple fact of they're not being taught at home as well, or sometimes they're just cornered and don't have another option. Some of these things can hugely be changed with just an hour from everyone, just once a month even, whether it be volunteering at your school or at your church or your local food bank, or having a food drive at your work. many different options to try to put your just an hour, a little bit of your time just into this. Also, another thing that I'm very involved in is our after-school programs as well in our local community. I know of a household with 2 working parents. Sometimes it's kind of tough to juggle with the daycare and then the expense of that as well. So we have a lot of these latchkey kids, so to speak, that are just going home every evening with no one there for several hours. So instead, we have created an after-school program that allows these kids to come in and do things as far as crafts, sports, and they're with a larger group of kids. There's also an after-school homework program that has statistically proven to help tremendously just in our local school alone. I believe that with our after-school program as well, there are some resources for the parents of these children. We do have a lot of volunteers that stay late in the evening and will counsel with parents or try to hook them up with some local resources that can help them in the things that they're showing the largest need for. I think that everyone just needs to realize that sometimes we get caught up in our own day-to-day life and we don't realize what others' needs and how that affects us. I believe as a parent and as a member of our local church and our community that everyone's needs affects the whole community. Sometimes we seem to forget that. So it's something that if you can just give 1 hour, just 1 hour of your time, just once a month even, and find something that you have a passion for and that you walk away feeling good about as well. And if you can teach your children to do that, it passes that along. And it's just amazing the difference that makes for all of our communities.